Would your college football team really be happy with another big play receiver? Of course they would. That's why Nick Marsh is going to be a big time commodity.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day, every day, right here on the nation's #1 podcasting network, Locked On. Today, we're going to get to the top college football coaching hires. I've got my list. I've got some thoughts on which ones will make it and which ones will not. That is going to be later on in the show. But the #1 topic is Nick Marsh, the former Michigan State wide receiver, hitting the transfer portal market, why he is a trendsetter, and why certain teams like Miami, LSU, possibly Tennessee, possibly Notre Dame, maybe it's somebody that I'm not even talking about. Maybe it's Florida. They've got a new coaching staff. Who knows? But I do know that everybody needs big play receivers. So let's jump in with that. Before I throw up any stats, and I'll do that momentarily, I just want you to think about how many teams have a player that does the following at wide receiver. Is 6'3", has tremendous hands, is the guy that can make the one-handed grab in the end zone with the defensive back draped all over him, that has the ability, even when a screen is not very well blocked, and again, he's 6'3", to be shifty, make the first, the second, and possibly the third guy miss, to basically run over somebody when needed, to use his body to shield off a bigger defender at corner that's 6'2". Basically, that has all the physical attributes of an NFL player. How would you like to add that to whoever your favorite team is? Who wouldn't? Nick Marsh, unfortunately, played at Michigan State the last couple of years. He's a Detroit native, wanted to go to state, could have went to Penn State and a lot of other schools, but he chose the Spartans over the Nittany Lions. Now, let's talk about what that really means. He's had an opportunity to see what it's like to struggle and still do okay. All right, now I'm going to, for those of you watching this live on YouTube, I've got the stats up here. Nick is a good player, but these stats are not indicative of just the raw talent. In the last 2 years combined, he has 100 catches. But if he played at LSU, if he played at Southern Cal, if he played at Notre Dame, if he played at Miami or Tennessee, even Florida State, look at Deuce Robinson did at Florida State. FSU was 5-7 this year, but Deuce had over 1,000 yards. Somehow, despite Nick Marsh's ridiculous talent, and I do mean ridiculous, 6'3", 200 plus pounds, he had 59 catches for 662 yards. Not terrible by any means, but he only averaged 11.2 yards per catch. So why is that? Well, for one, the offensive line at Michigan State was optional from play to play, meaning they were just so bad that I can't even put it into perspective. Like if you're an MSU quarterback, you didn't know what you were getting from play to play other than hit underneath your chin strap. That was almost a guarantee in certain situations. With that being stated, I think that if you take that same player this past season, Nick Marsh, and insert it in any of those schools I just mentioned, or even like Penn State, or even a team that is just middle of the road as a passing team, Illinois, whatever, he would have had 850, 900 minimum. And again, like if he's at USC, or if he had like if he played at Notre Dame, he had Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price in the backfield where they couldn't just put two on him. He's a 1,000-yard receiver at some of these schools. Miami with their running backs, pick a school, Texas A&M with their running backs and their receiving. He would have been a totally different player. So the next question, as you look at these stats here, again, 59 catches, 662 yards, 11.2 yards per catch, 6 touchdowns. He had 3 carries for 11 yards. They didn't really use him that much as a guy on reverses and whatnot. But what would he do at a major school? And you got to ask that question first, because that also brings up the second question. What's the cost? What is it going to take for Nick Marsh to land at school, fill in the blank? LSU, Texas, whatever program you imagine. What's it going to cost? Well, I'll look at it this way. I know Cam Coleman made a little over $1 million this year at Auburn. At least that's what I was told. I'd expect Marsh to get north of 1.5 because there'll be at least one school that does that. Who it is or why, I have no idea. But somebody's going to do it. Maybe it's Oregon. Maybe it's Miami. Maybe it's Tennessee. Those are three of the big box schools that have very deep NIL pockets. There are others. Texas Tech. Would it surprise me if he ended up at Texas Tech? Absolutely not. But at the same time, I don't know what his priority list is. Development, if I was him, would be number one. I don't want to play in an offense that helped me set up for NFL success, like played with a good offensive line, a good quarterback, has a good running game, has balance. It's going to make me better as a blocker, all the things that I'm going to be graded on at the National Football League draft. Having stated that part, money still talks. So if you get $500,000 offer more at school A compared to school B, it's subjective. So we'll see what he does. But as I've noted, just like when I talked about Sam Leavitt yesterday, I think it'll be a very similar list of schools, quarterback and wide receiver. So here are some of them I think that will be involved. Notre Dame, maybe Ohio State. Carnell Tate's probably going to leave after this year for Ohio State, barring something very unforeseen, go to the draft. So Tate leaves. There's going to be a spot open. Would Ohio State at least kick the tires? I'm sure they would. Michigan, I mean, he's a Michigan State guy. I doubt he would go to Michigan, but playing with Bryce Underwood, would it shock me? No. Miami, definitely. Oregon, definitely. Tennessee, they're going to lose Brazel. Like there's a lot of teams that are losing guys. Matter of fact, I've got a little list here of some of the guys in general. Like Chris Brazel leaving Tennessee, those fans are ready for another playoff run. I expect Tennessee to be heavy in this. LSU doesn't have a true playmaker at receiver. They didn't have a receiver that averaged like 12 yards a catch. Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper will probably not be back in Indiana. There's another school. It's just one state south. Those are some of those teams. Notre Dame is going to lose Malachi Fields, and Miami's going to lose C.J. Daniels, among others. There are a lot of reasons to think the big box schools are going to be in this. This could be as wild, if not wilder, than what the quarterback market is, because I'm not sure there's going to be another receiver that has the physical size that we're talking about with Marsh in this market, especially one that can make the lateral movements and make guys miss and be dynamic after the catch when it's really a generic play thereafter. So I'm going to throw out the number 1.5 million is the minimum that he will end up getting. That's just my opinion. It could be more, it could be less, it could be 2.5. I don't know if it's a school that thinks we got to have this guy and he really doesn't want to go there, but they're in consideration. Could it go to 2.2 or something? Sure, it's possible. How much do you want to pay? It's supply and demand. Your price is what somebody is willing to pay you. That being the case, I'm curious if you've got a comment or anything about what Marsh should be in your eyes is a playmaker. Am I overhyping him? Fire away in the chat, or if you're listening to this later on, comment on the YouTube page for Locked On the Portal. What we got here? Alaska Girl Dad. Is Nick Marsh related to Andrew Marsh? I am not sure, to be honest. That's a good question. If somebody knows the answer to that, fire away. I do not know. Charles Faust 3. I think Notre Dame will make a strong push for Marsh if they can get him into school. Yeah, that's a good point. Some of the private schools do it differently. Like they want kids to be all the way through underclassmen ranks. Marsh has played 2 years at Michigan State, so he's kind of halfway through his education. Would Notre Dame or a Vandy or Stanford let him in? I don't know. That's probably not going to be the easiest thing for like a guy like Marcus Freeman to get done. Alaskan Girl Dad. Seems like he'd be missing piece to Michigan, and they need him in the worst way and apparently have cash to spare. Yeah, Michigan's wide receiver room, not great. I like the kid that's freshman there. Like he's an NFL player too, but he's going to get double teamed like crazy from now on. They need to pick up somebody in the portal. If it's not Nick, somebody else. We got here, Thalick. Hoosiers for real. Yeah, I think Indiana's not only good this year, but because of their success over the last 2 seasons, they'll probably make a run at several different quarterbacks, including possibly a certain quarterback that just hit the market from Arizona State, and there'll be others. We'll see. And if Indiana can find another quarterback, Nick Marsh could be somebody they go after. Let's see. Marsh isn't going to Michigan. Yeah, I doubt he does either. They are not related. Oh, well, thank you for that information. What else we got here? I'm checking for wide receiver KJ Duff. Michigan needs a guy like that. KJ Duff, that's an interesting one. Well, Michigan needs a receiver that's underneath, that's a possession guy, and they also need a twitchy slot. They don't need one guy. They need 2. They got the big-bodied outside guy, or he can play flanker. They need 2 receivers. Michigan needs multiple, and they need another tight end. Like, you always got to have more tight end bodies because they get beat up. But Bryce Underwood without weapons, that's not right. We're being cheated as fans of college football. Michigan needs to get a lot of players. Well, I'll break down teams as we get into this and have some fun with it. But Nick Marsh is kind of my first guy. When we come back, I want to talk about the coaching carousel. I'm going to grade some of these coaches, and I'm going to throw in a few thoughts about why, as it relates to Marsh and some other players, why they would be good fits. I have a couple randoms I want to throw in there. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. NFL moves fast, and one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the football game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, the defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment whenever you want. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props, they get updated as a player heats up. You can even use things like touchdowns, drive results, totals, and everything else you can imagine on FanDuel. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action all season long, FanDuel.com can help you get there. Place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day, each and every day, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. If you have not already, become an everydayer, and we also have another opportunity for you. If you want to get rid of the commercials and all that, you listen to this stuff later on, that's cool. Down in the description, we will have the Everydayer Club that I will put up for the podcast that I upload after the live show. It's $5 a month, or it's like $50 for a year. Eliminate all of the ads. And we also got a Discord server where you can talk football with people. We're just getting it started. I actually just posted talking about the Alabama versus Oklahoma game. I have no idea who's going to win that. That's a tough one. There's going to be a lot of discussion on the Discord. Check it out. Everydayer Club right here on the Locked On Podcast Network with the Portal Podcast. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the top coaches, allegedly the top hires, if you will, in this year's coaching carousel. The first one that I want to bring up probably won't shock too many people. Lane Kiffin. Here are a few of the things that I know about Kiffin going over to LSU. Is he the number one hire? Well, there are a few things to think about. He's obviously a tremendous quarterback coach. He's done that at USC. He's been that way at Ole Miss with multiple guys, putting them in the NFL. He was a guy that did pretty well at FAU down in South Florida. He's a guy that probably is going to be going to LSU and looking for a quarterback. Hello, Sam Levitt. I have a feeling that's going to be a very interesting situation if he doesn't get Trinidad Chambliss another year and him transferring from Ole Miss down to LSU. And speaking of guys transferring, Kiffin has an eye for talent that comes via the portal. Now, he did it when he was building out the Ole Miss roster. It's different at LSU, I will grant you, but that's a really important part. Even if you take fewer of them at LSU, which is pretty much a lock that he will long term, he has an eye for how guys will fit into a program. Congrats to Kiffin and all of those people with his staff at Ole Miss for making that happen. But finally, this is the biggest reason I think there's a chance this will work. Anytime Lane has a problem or a potential great situation, he might be able to make it better because of two people. He is from not only the Pete Carroll tree, but the Nick Saban tree. Having the opportunity to be under those great head coaches helps. And his dad, Monty Kiffin, was a really good coordinator. So you combine all of that, at Orgeron's a friend, et cetera, et cetera. He has a lot of different people that he can pull from. So whether it's a good situation, a bad one, or anything else, I think Kiffin is a guy that is really intriguing at LSU. Here are my concerns about Kiffin, though, as it relates to LSU. These are just real. I'm not trying to bag on Kiffin or LSU, but this is just how it is. That fan base is bananas. I went to LSU for grad school for one semester. I decided to transfer out, nothing personal about it, but to go back home. And I just know from that one semester, it is the most linear place I've ever lived. If it doesn't happen in Louisiana, they don't care. and they don't think there's anybody else that should ever win it. Every single thing you do is magnified tenfold. Kiffin is not a shy character. When something goes wrong, and inevitably it will, his mouth is probably going to get him in trouble at some point. How is he going to handle things? How is he going to be able to handle the scrutiny of somebody saying something to his wife or his daughter out in public? Like, it's a rough job in that sense. If you lose to Alabama your first 3 years, if you have a recruiting battle that's a kid local to Baton Rouge and you don't get him, that they take very serious keeping everybody home that they want. Like, the expectations from LSU fans is not realistic. That's why I think this hire is iffy, and it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think it's the best hire. I really don't. And the next one that I want to talk about is one that could end up being the best for what their situation is. And you can take it any way you want, but that's Alex Golesh with Auburn. First question I have, because he's such an offensive mind, it's from the Heupel tree. Will Auburn's offense immediately be among the Southeastern Conference's best? You're going to have Cam Coleman. That's kind of a helpful thing. It sounds like he's going to be back. They've got Singleton. They've got Malcolm Simmons. They've got a really good running back that's a 1,000-yard guy. I think that Byron Brown, the quarterback at USF, will end up at Auburn. Maybe I'm wrong, but even if they don't, they'll have Deuce Knight, etc. They're going to have plenty of that. And on top of it, he has proven that he can develop players that, quite frankly, not a lot of people recruited. So long-term, you're good. And he's also a guy that's just a really good recruiter in general. He has been a recruiting coordinator. He's going to be able to sift through that roster, get the right guys in the right places this spring. And I think Auburn will hit the ground running. I think 8 wins is minimum next year. And I think there's a really good chance they will make a playoff run despite a tough schedule. By the way, they host LSU next season. That ought to be a great, great football game. So I think in general, it's a safer pick because the expectations at Auburn are a little bit different. They want to win titles and all that, but they're not LSU. I think it's more likely that Golesh is more successful based on the standard than what Kiffin is. At least you could argue that. So everybody's got their own opinion about that. And if you don't agree, I get it. But I think that Alex Golesh is going to be a tremendous hire. When we come back, a couple of other guys I want to talk about. Penn State got Matt Campbell. Definitely want to talk about Jon Sumrall and many more. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. 48 teams for the first time ever. It's going to be a massive event. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part for the World Cup. That's why Game Time's app is clutch, finally giving you, the fans, a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts right to your phone when great seats open, and buy tickets when the money hits the fan, or the moment it hits the app. You're right there because it comes onto your phone and you can buy them very, very quickly. Puts the power in your hands instead of just guessing on where to get them and how to go about it. And it makes going to the World Cup honestly more realistic. So a couple of key points. If there's only one team you want to see, you can set it up in the app to get alerts for it. If there's something you want to do across the board, you can set up several alerts. It's easy. And the best part is whatever ticket you're interested in, click on it. It'll show you the seat view right from your phone. It's very, very simple. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets or any kind of tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time. All right, let's talk a little bit about some of the other really good opportunities that we have for some of these coaches. I think there's several different people that'll be good, but is it across the board? Again, I don't know. I think Alex Golesh is a guy I'm really high on. Klein going back to his alma mater, leaving A&M, going up to Kansas State. I think he will be good. I'm curious to see how he recruits. But here are some other really interesting ones just in general that I like. Jon Sumrall at Florida. He hired Buster Faulkner from Georgia Tech. That is a tremendous all-around hire. Sumrall's a good coach. He's always involved towards the top of the conference wherever he's at. He's coached in multiple stops, Kentucky, Tulane, Troy. He's seen a lot of the Deep South recruiting hubs based on where he's been. He's going to be fine. He knows what it's like to recruit at places like, Nashville, Atlanta, Mobile, New Orleans. He's going to be fine. And now he's recruiting at Florida. That, to me, that's a top 5 job. But whatever the case may be, adding Buster Faulkner, that's a tremendous hire. You could argue it's the best overall hire because we got as coordinator. Penn State with Matt Campbell. I thought it was the guy they should have went after originally. He's from Ohio. He played at Mount Union. He coached at Mount Union. Kind of like Sumrall, he came up through the ranks. And he helped a program that, let's be honest, in Iowa State that sucked forever, become a consistent bowl team, be consistently relevant in the Big 12. Is he somebody that's going to win big at Penn State? Well, the question really comes down to whether or not he can attract 5-star talent, deal with it. Because those kids, I can tell you, because I deal with a lot of them, can be a problem. We'll see how that goes. But great coach. He knows what the staff's supposed to be like. He's had a lot of guys that work well together, keeps his staff together. Good job. Ole Miss. Kiffin leaves. Defensive coordinator Pete Golding steps in. While hot yoga will not be a part of his routine, he is a good football coach. He worked under Saban. He's seen what it looks like to win a national title. He's going to do a pretty good job. He's a good recruiter, from what I've heard. I need to see how he does in this playoff run and then this offseason handling media scrutiny. But I think Pete Golding should be able to be an 8-win coach most years at Ole Miss, if not better. How he handles the offense and all that is my question. Who will the coordinators be consistently? Can he keep his coordinators and all that? That's the next step for me to buy in totally on the hire, but it's at least a B because he already knows what it's like to be there. He knows what it looks like to win a title, and he's a good recruiter. Those are some pretty darn good starting points. Virginia Tech with James Franklin, that's an AA minus because I didn't expect they would get a coach like that. Now I need to see their boosters support Franklin and make sure he has what he needs as a staff. We know he can recruit. And when I say recruit, I'm not just talking about top 5 classes. I mean, attract talent that will stay. He had an extremely high retention rate at Penn State, and that's just as important as signing the kids. Well, good are they if they're going to leave in a year? He's that guy. So I think Virginia Tech is on the up. Really nice job by the Hokies. Bob Chesney at UCLA, I don't know as much about him, but he's won just about everywhere he's went. He's had like every year, but like one's been a winning season as a coach. He's another guy that came up the ranks. He's not a West Coast guy, though. He's an East Coast guy. How will he do at UCLA? We'll see. Pat Fitzgerald at Michigan State. He's a guy who was at Northwestern forever. That was his alma mater. That is a totally different culture in East Lansing. They can take kids with totally different academic and social backgrounds than you do at Northwestern. Will he adjust to those players? I don't know, but he can coach football. Now does he assemble the staff necessary to corral the talent? I have no idea because it's just such a different animal at Michigan State. I wouldn't bet on it. We'll see. Cal, Tosh Lupoy, this is an easy one. He went and got Karan, how do you say his name? Duran Kavea Sakapolatele, the quarterback. I've been trying to work on that name. I'm still obviously struggling. But he went out and visited him in Hawaii, JKS, and that was over immediately. That guy's a closer as a recruiter, and obviously he's keeping his roster to go. Duran Seve Sakapolatele, there we go. He's a kid that, like, he's got a chance to be in the Heisman race at Cal. My question for Lupoy is very simple. Can he get enough money together to get that guy? It'd be nice if he could get 2, but can he get 1 big-time receiver? I'm not asking for Nick Marsh, but it would be really cool if Cal was viable November 15th or later in the ACC race the next couple of years before JKS decides to head off to the NFL because he's an NFL player. That'd be great. USF, Brian Hartline. This is his first gig, but he's played in the NFL in Miami. Tremendous recruiter. He's a nice guy. I've met him. Very good coach for receivers in a state that just produces them. Ironically, all 3 of Ohio State's receivers this past year played high school ball as seniors in the state of Florida. And he's a guy that is just familiar around the country. He's a big name. I think that is a tremendous hire. And you could even make the argument that it's the best hire of any of these because that is not a P4 hire. That's G6. Maybe USF gets that next step up. That would be very interesting. Good for Hartline. Good for USF. And I'm curious to see what he does. I hope he does well. Will Stein from Oregon, the OC, goes to Kentucky. Now, he's got ties to that state. He was at Louisville. His family's got ties to UK. That's good. 2 questions. Are they going to spend enough money on football, not basketball with NIL to be viable? And 2, How is he going to handle his staff? Much like some of the other jobs, you need to hire people that are not only good coaches and can keep your roster together, but can go out and get the 4 and 5 star guys. Kentucky's ever going to make a move, it's now, because this is a really good hire. But they're going to have to spend way more money, way more money on football, or it's just going to be wasted. I have no idea if they're going to do it. Arkansas, Ryan Silverfeld. I don't know if he's going to be the guy or not. I don't know a ton about him, but I do know Memphis and Arkansas are connected. Arkansas has always recruited Memphis for high school basketball and football and baseball and everything else. Pretty easy transition. But much like Kentucky, are they going to spend the money on football? Not baseball, not track, not basketball, etc. I need to see it. Stanford, Tavita Pritchard, the quarterback that formerly played for them. He was in the NFL, coaching Jaden Daniels with the Washington Commanders. He was also a quarterback back in the day that helped beat USC when they were 41-point underdogs, one of the wildest games ever. Stanford's terrible, but they can't be any worse. Hopefully he's a guy that can at least get them to 4 or 5 wins a year. We'll see, but that's a tough job. Last, this one is got an asterisk by it, and I put it last intentionally out of the schools that have made hires, and there's some others, but these are the ones I want to comment on today. Morris takes over the job at Oak State from North Texas. He's allegedly going to bring Drew Mustamaker over from North Texas, the quarterback. That's a great story. If that does come to fruition, that could be another job that you say, out of everything here, this one is the best overall hire because they're getting the quarterback with him. Need to see it official before anything else. I need to see him on the practice field. I don't care if he signs. I want to see him at Oklahoma State because I got a feeling a lot of other schools are still going to make some serious offers. We'll see, but that could be cool. The Big 12 is not balanced at all. They've got 2 or 3 schools that are way better than everybody else, and that league's got to spend a lot more money, especially for linemen. But quarterbacks still matter. Like, it's still the number one position. Don't you think that linemen are more likely to go to Stillwater if Mestamaker goes there? Because I certainly do. Now, for those of you that are wondering, I'm sure there's still going to be some coaching hiring moves that are really important with coordinators. We'll get back to those as time goes along. But right now, this is a wild coaching carousel, and I've enjoyed it. I hope you have too, but there's still a lot of things to look at. Recruiting, portal, assistant hires, coordinator hires, and how much NIL money, although we don't get the exact totals, are each of these coaches getting. That's very important as well. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. Let's see here. What we got in the chat? Josh Buff of the Motivational Boo. Okay. You're a Notre Dame fan. Go Irish. 2026 unfinished business. 2026 national champs. Notre Dame will be top 5, more than likely, preseason next year. Sparty fans have been saying Marsh is destined for the SEC. It wouldn't surprise me. Josh, Freeman will not go to the Giants or any other NFL team. He's all Irish. Katie Allman, Heartline will take U.S. to the next level, and Golish left a good foundation. I like both those statements. Well said, Katie. You got to give, like when Golish got there, they'd won 4 games in 3 years. They were bad. Girth Brooks 1-5. Nick Marsh needs to go to Penn State. Maybe they would change things and pay the money. That's pretty funny. Katie, is Shannon Dawson leaving Miami? I haven't heard anything about Dawson, but I'm sure he's got plenty of opportunities. But why would you leave unless you're getting a head coaching job? He's a Louisiana native for what it's worth, but I'd imagine that he's not going to LSU because Charlie Weiss Jr. is going there. So where would he be going? NFL, maybe? I guess that would be a possibility, but I have not heard anything as it relates to Dawson, but I haven't searched either. So we'll see. Thank you very much to everybody that checked out today's show. I truly appreciate it. If you have any questions or anything, you can always hit me up at FBScout_Florida. I'm on X. I've got an open inbox. If you've got a show idea or anything like that, let it rip. Certainly appreciate it. And again, if you have not already, please become an everydayer right here on the Portal Podcast. I do these live shows just about every noon at Eastern. Probably going to be doing them the rest of the week, but next week for sure. I'm on the road right now. I'm at my parents' house. We're on a normal schedule next week once I get back down to Alabama. But thank you to everybody. We will see you again soon right here on the Portal Podcast.